What is it about riding a bike that is so liberating? What unites us all is the craving for that special feeling. This is what inspired the developers at Garneau to create the innovative, award-winning X-Comfort technology, optimizing comfort to maximize performance and, most of all, the good feelings that make us so passionate about riding. The brand new X-Comfort Zone incorporates an elasticized zone that expands up to 5 millimeters to accommodate B through D+ foot widths. We all pedal in the same way. As you push down, your toes naturally splay. And the dynamic changes that happen inside your shoe as your feet contract and expand under pressure as you ride. The pressure and friction created as the outside of your foot expands over and over against your shoe can create serious and painful hot spots and irritations. The longer you ride, the worse it can become. This makes for a level of never-before-experienced comfort in the highest-performing cycling footwear. Every cyclist rides for that special feeling that cycling brings to us. Each one of us has our own version of what it means to enjoy the ride. We just help make it possible.
Go down the road. All right, don't throw your arms in the air. Don't do anything crazy. No random shit, okay?
I had my own strategy. I was actually working for you guys. So what I did at the last moment, I just pulled back. So you guys need to buy me some beers.
Esports. We love to play. Since the 1980s, video games and competitive gameplay have been part of our Western culture. The video arcade, the Atari, Nintendo, PlayStation, even PC gaming are all part of this rich cultural lineage of play. We play ourselves, we watch, we even compete. What makes an esport? Well, any individual or team game that can be played on a level playing field in competition, whether that's live or online.
Still alive! Charm's gonna land on him! Is he gonna be able to walk away? Baker is still running! Oh, damaging him! There's another turn! And expression goes down!
While there are half a dozen top-tier esports, more than 100 different titles are being played competitively around the world. Esports break all boundaries. They're played by men and women across cultures and can be played on consoles, PCs, and even mobile devices. Esports are truly a world sport. Over the last decade, we've seen interest, broadcasting, and live events eclipse those of their traditional sport counterparts. Esports are a massive draw. We love to watch them live, and we love to watch them stream. For people under 30, video games are the most popular media industry in the world, more popular than television, music, or movies. But competitive video game play is not just something we do, it's something we watch. In 2016, more people watched the League of Legends Championships than the World Series, the NBA Championships, or the Stanley Cup playoffs. That makes the top 3 sporting events in the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and a video game competition. Esports are the sport of the rising generation. Talented players, broadcasters, and managers are filling every level from professional, now to collegiate, high school, and even Pee-wee. To many, esports is the biggest world they've never heard of. But to millennials, it's the future of competition, of broadcasting, and of sport. But not the distant future, the future of today. This is esports. Cyclogen's Virtual Rankings is a ranking system for Zwift racers, built to make racing more fun for all levels of ability. The rankings are based on historical data, as well as new race results, which are uploaded immediately. Racers are divided into divisions, and points are distributed based on the strength of the field in the race. Terms are separated into months, quarters, years, and lifetime. And at the end of each term, racers are able to be promoted to a new division. High-scoring elite racers are also automatically under consideration to participate in a CVR World Cup event.
We're on a journey and we're going by bike. Bicycles set people free. It starts as kids when bikes set us free to explore the edges of our neighborhood. It continues into adulthood when weekend rides set our minds free from work and worry. It's the reason why still today bikes are at the heart of everything we do. Through our products, we propel bike lovers forward, be it in pursuit of personal enjoyment or peak performance. Through our business approach, we strengthen our community in Madison, Wisconsin, where we design and build the vast majority of our American-made products. Through our advocacy, we promote healthier, happier, bike-smart communities, both locally and nationally. We set out on this journey the day Sarah and Chris combined names to form Saris. So grab a bike and join us.
Well, hello and welcome everybody. This is CVR World Cup, the league, and you're about to see Zone F. I'm going to be joined momentarily by Frank Garcia. We're going to talk racing tactics and why this is the hardest video game ever. But thank you for joining us wherever you're joining us, whether that be Facebook or Mixer, or you're watching this on my MySpace page. It doesn't matter. Thank you for joining us. Even though Fortnite just came out with 4.0, we've got Pain 10.0 that's about to drop in about 3.5 minutes. They're going to race a course in virtual London here that is going to blow your mind. 41 kilometers, that's about 26 miles, but it is pancake flat. Only 90 total meters of climbing over the 3 laps. This is a sprinter's delight. Now, will those sprinters be able to get away? What are the climbers going to do? What did I have for breakfast? We're going to cover all of those topics. But first, this is the rider you're going to want to pay close attention to here in Zone F of this worldwide bike racing league is Matthew Brandt. That's right. MB, as he's called, not BM. He has no BM. He's Matthew Brandt and a strong racer. He's going to be trying to catch this man, the real deal, Frank Deal, Deschutes Brewery, a smile that could slay. He is the leader on the board right now. Then, in the women's field, Sandra Deegan, who you're going to see race, does a great job. She's been in and around the top, but has she finished on top? Not yet, because Lauren McMurtry has all the points. She is a crowd favorite and is going to look to hang on to that. This is the day she's been waiting for in Zone F for a while. Here we are dropping into the pen right now. Below me, you see some of the previous results. These are the standings of these racers so far in this zone. Doing a great job thus far, making this a great place to race. There are a few people that I should point out who are in this group. Casey Shum, who is a well-known racer, is going to be joining us today. Kai Barrett, we called his name lots of times. Casey already called a race today. He's a broadcaster. He's a world-class racer. I think he's also good at shiatsu massage. I've not been able to prove that, but we're going to find out. Maybe not today. Thank you for joining us wherever you're joining us. Say hi. Let us know you're here. If this is your first time here and you are like, what in the world? This is the hardest video game ever. This is real people racing real bikes, and we'll show you what it looks like in their pain caves, in their unique places all over the world. But there are riders from all over the world. You see down at the bottom of your screen, maybe some flags peeking up there. Kobayashi, Olsen from Canada, Roberts from the U.S. Those are the riders you're going to see today. We're broadcasting this from the United States, but it is a worldwide league. And in 10 seconds, this thing is going to go crazy. Lasergate will drop, and we will dig into the opening long lead in to the first of the 3 laps to this race. And boom, it drops. 31 racers in the field right now, and they are going hard. There's our man, Greg Leo from Team Draft there. He's got his fan on. He's got his headband on. This could be 1970s. There you see, this is the way it looks for him. When it gets close to gate drop, he's inside of 10 seconds. By the way, this is just slightly delayed on his end. He is going to dig hard wearing that Team Draft jersey. Dr. Greg Leo going to drop that and go hard. You ramp up and you explode off the front. This is what you're going to see. We've got all these different racers doing their own thing in their broadcast piece. Now, you can check out any of the riders you want to see over at cycleview.cvrworldcup.com, cycleview.cvrworldcup.com. But Greg Leo throwing it down right now, going into his own tilted towers of pain right now. There. Oh, my goodness. What a party going on for Casey Shum. That's what it looks like in his world right now. That he's got a, okay, it's a chroma key screen. There may or may not be aliens back there. We'll find out later. But Casey is a well-known racer here. He's doing his thing, working hard. I think he's even listening to us. Either that or he's listening to outer space sounds or the original soundtrack to the 1971 Flash Gordon. Anyway, we'll find out maybe a little bit later about him. Now, checking in with the women's field, they have just dropped the gate and started to go. There she is, Cheryl Muldoon, in her pain cave of purple. Well-known racer here. She's had a great effort so far. This is the kind of day she's been waiting for, chasing on with Emily Joyner, who was a big finisher last week. Of course, Vicky Whitelaw and the rest of that crew, Sandra Deegan, who I mentioned earlier. Lauren McMurtry on the tail end of this. This is the week she's been waiting for. This is her kind of course. If she can hang on to the end, she can outsprint every single rider in this field. Now, the women will tell you that's not true. I'm faster. But that's why we race, so we can find these things out. You'll notice each of the racers doing their own thing, slightly different, so that they can show off what's going on in their pain cave. That's what we like here. CVR World Cup, we want to see the work of the racers doing their beautiful thing. Okay, so Cheryl is centered in there. Here we go. Vicky Whitelaw, welcome to the party. So glad to have you here with us. Great to have you in the field. She has just been crushing in previous weeks. So glad to have her on course. It is wonderful to see her out here finally. Folks get a few extra points if they stream. Now, if you win, you get 1,000 points, that is. If you stream, you get 5 points. It doesn't sound like much. It seems inconsequential, but it can boost you over the next person in the group. The next person down gets 998. So you can see how valuable 5 points might be. You come in behind somebody, but your streaming points lift you over. And you can check out those live standings over on cycleview.cvrworldcup.com, where you can also pick these different riders that you want to see. Cheryl, great to see you in the mix, or Vicky rather. So glad to have you here. Okay, as we look at this view for her, we find that there are lots of cool things going on. McMurtry in this group, Boré in this group, Muldoon, who we've just mentioned. The women's group is strong today. This is one of the best groups that we've got going in any of the fields. Really, really exciting. Vicky Whitelaw has shown up every day so far to show why she is so dominant. Okay, but Cheryl Muldoon, one of the finalists in Los Angeles. That was a live event, flown out, cyclists from all over the world, from France, from Belgium, from the Netherlands, from the U.S. I think there was even someone from Ohio. True story. They come together in real life from time to time. Okay, back to the men's field. We see Greg Leo responding to a big move up front. What is going on here? That is what's happening. Uh-oh. Nice podcast, says Adam Zimmerman. Glad to see you, AZ. Glad that you're out here. Hey, aren't you supposed to be racing in this group and helping your boy out? Your boy's in a little spot of trouble right here. Greg Leo drifting off the back, trying to catch back onto Kai Barrett, the man that he is going to race to the end with. Kai Barrett with a really, really cool move. We'll tell you about that move here in just a little bit. We actually have it. And there's the man himself, Frank Deal. Chroma key screen in the background. That is fabulous. Not easy to do, ladies and gentlemen, when you have a fan blowing on you and you got to put a screen behind you. But he has a different kit on today, maybe looking for a little bit different result than he's seen in previous outings. Okay. The fabulous work being done right now by Frank Deal is just part of the real effort being put out by these racers. Thank you for joining us, those of you on Mixer, those of you on Facebook, checking in with the live production here. Glad to have you. This is week 5. We are leading forward to a new race coming up here very soon. This is a big live event that's going to happen in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I am joined here as well by the man himself, Frank Garcia. Frank, how's it going?
Really good. And we've got some people animating the races here today. Everybody thought it was flat, probably just go easy until the end, but we haven't seen that at all today. A lot of animation in the races.
No kidding. Emily Joyner trying to escape off the front here. Cheryl looking around saying, who's going to help pull her back? Well, it's the PTZ rider, Sandra Deegan, well known for this. Vicky Whitelaw is still in this group, but she finds herself kind of drifting off the back a little bit and then decides she's going to do the big bridge up. Cheryl doing everything she's supposed to do, finding that wheel. If it's not her job to pull it back, then she waits for someone else to do it. But we have got to get Lauren McMurtry back in the group here. She is 2 seconds off the back and really well positioned to be able to sprint this one to the end. She's been waiting for a day like this for a long time. Whitelaw backs it off just a little bit, Vicky, and then Deegan's just kind of drifts by. This is the opening that McMurtry needs. She's just a little bit further off the back, trying to get back on. It looks like she is going to be able to do it. So, Frank, as we look at this course, we mentioned pancake flat, and there's not a lot of variation in it, but there's plenty of opportunities to attack and mix it up. This hill being one of those areas you can go just a little bit harder. There she is right there.
Absolutely, and you see Lauren here getting up and out of the saddle and working hard on those spots, and she's got to stay in contact. Definitely don't want to lose it this early. She's leading the league at this point, but based on averages, she's got to perform a little bit better. And if we shift over to Cheryl on 5, we'll see that she is really working hard. Everything is a lot of power going down in the women's race today. Very exciting race shaping up, and we'll see that in the men's race as well. A lot of animation, a lot of attacks. And we expected some big bunch sprints at the end, but what we've seen is, onesie twosies, some breaks getting away, not big sprints, mostly maybe 3 or 4 people to sprint at the end. So a lot of hard racing throughout the day.
Big time. Now you can check out any of these riders that you want. And here's the folks that are broadcasting right now: Lauren McMurtry, Cheryl Muldoon, Greg Leo, Harry Roberts, Casey Shum, and Frank Deal. All over on the CVR World Cup site. That'd be CycleView.CVR World Cup. You can bring up 4 different pages and watch Casey and Greg battle it out. You can watch Lauren and Vicky or Cheryl battle it out. You can even cheer for them over there, which is absolutely awesome. It is great to see Vicky in the lineup today with camera on as well. It just changes. I feel like now, where she was this dark force going off the front like she is right now, she finds herself, maybe just hit a button there, she finds herself digging really, really hard. But now we have a face with this amazing athlete. She's a well-seasoned athlete as far as the professional ranks go. She was a UCI tour rider for a number of years, finishing up, I believe, in 2011. She's got 2008, 2009 in the books there, and 2011. She was actually dropped off the back. I mentioned she was digging to try to catch back on. It looks like she might have had just a little bit of a dropout, but we can see the overall effort that she's got there. There's our friend Lauren McMurtry checking in on her MySpace. The new mobile app for MySpace makes things really, no, there's no MySpace mobile app. Is there? Well, you know what, Mixer, you'll tell me if it is or not. Welcome to the group. If you're new here and you want to be able to see these riders in the future, click that follow and you'll be notified when these races go off. Just a little recap. This is a worldwide event, Frank. It is 8 different zones that go about every 3 hours apart. There's a little bit of flex on that depending on time zone, position of the sun, price of the yen, and all those things. But racers from all over the world come together and race in these different zones for the opportunity to race for big cash together. And that next event is in Vancouver, British Columbia. What has been your experience as these different riders from all over the world have kind of come together and found a way to play, to race, to do what they do every day if they wanted to, but certainly for CVR World Cup every week?
Yeah, absolutely. What we see here is an opportunity to new professional sports being born. It's an e-sport. It's also a physical sport. That in itself is unique. But the other unique thing is big prize purses. We just paid out in Los Angeles over $70K. The winners of the men and the women took home $7,800 each. In Vancouver, a minimum of 10 grand goes to the men and the women. The prize purses are the same for each of those. And we're just super excited to be a part of something being born. And it's very, very exciting. It's only going to get more exciting as time goes on.
It is going to get more exciting for sure. Welcome to lots of the folks who are jumping into these different spaces. We love your comments. So here's the question for you. Is this the day that Lauren McMurtry's been waiting for? Let us know. Or is Vicky or Cheryl or Emily or Sandra going to take it away from her? We know that Lauren has been a fabulous sprinter before. We've had nothing but mountains, it seems, so far. But now we've got an opportunity to see her do really, really cool stuff. In just a little bit, we'll kind of tell you a little bit more about how we got here, a little bit more about the course that's going on here. But definitely this is going to be exciting. Okay. The women's race is a strong one today. And you see a number of people in there. Now off the back a little bit, Boré, she's 22 seconds back, not responding well to these overall efforts. But you see the big group here. And the heart rate's still pretty dang high. Cheryl Muldoon in the pain cave of purple, doing about 177 beats per minute. And probably for a lot of you mixer folks, 177 beats is like really, really hard work. Maybe it's happened recently, probably not. And so she is kind of not at her limit, but definitely in a tough spot. Okay, back on board with the men's race. Here it is. You see a few of those folks, including Matthew Brandt, who I mentioned at the top of the show, doing some good work right there near the front. He's trying to make maybe just a little bit of a gap happen, or was just a little bit ago. They are coming in. They only see the riders around them who are actually in the field. The rider who is off the front there, a little bit hard for me to identify. Let me take those live results as they exist now. You can check those as well. This is Zone F, right? But in that men's A group, that is Boris Clark, who is doing that hard work there at the front, doing great stuff. There is what it looks like out on course. Those that we're following in this group, and we're just bringing you 6 of them for now, would include Kai Barrett, Matthew Brandt, Greg Leo, Chris. That's not me. That's Chris from Brooklyn. Of course, Frank Deal and Hugh Thomas. Now, those folks are all together right now out on the course. Okay, on board with Weiland. He is one of the stronger finishers in this race overall, actually not in the men's A group, but believe it or not, in the B group, although racing out of category, it would appear. Kazuhiro Inuo is one of the B riders that we'll come to know very well in this group. I'm sorry, Tyson Wayland is actually in a different zone. So is Mike Davis. What that tells us, so is Casey Shum, by the way. What that tells us is that these riders are racing for a teammate, which they can do. The teammates can come together and create just a little bit more action. But for people who are brand new to bike racing, there's Casey digging it hard right there. Here's what it looks like when he goes crazy in just a moment. He sees that opening, acts like he's going to bridge up, but then takes the opportunity and goes cray-cray, big-time watts. Look at the effort put out by him, over almost 400 watts as he explodes by here. Heart rate starting to ramp up. You can watch those ticks just increase. 59, 60, 61 guaranteed coming up here. I predicted it here first. But Casey Shum from Team X, that's Team Experimental, maybe doing a little bit of work for Frank Deal. But Frank, so here's my question for you. As Casey puts on that little attack there, how does that help Frank? Well, if he's a teammate and he's working for his teammate, how does that help your guy?
Well, Frank just gets to sit in. He gets to follow wheels. He stays what they call protected, and that means you stay out of the wind. So Casey's out front. He's breaking the wind, and he's making other people chase him, right? So they're having to go to the front in the wind, put some extra work down up there, while Frank just kind of follows. He's not going to stick his head out in the wind, and he saves energy that way. And that's what Frank's going to look to do throughout the day. And Casey will look to animate the race, get all the other people burning their legs up a little bit, and then Frank's got more of it at the end. Now you've got 3 draft players in the mix as well. So draft is going to just sort of cover these things. I think their protected rider is probably Leo, and so the other 2 will work to keep that steady.
And Greg Leo with maybe the most colorful combination of hair and overlay and font color. Boy, if there is a prize for that, I would bet he would win it. Very, very cool to see him do his thing. We love Greg Leo. That's Dr. Greg Leo, university professor, showing you that he can do more than one. He can do more than just sit in committee meetings.
He does game theory, which is,
yes,
of course, sounds very exciting when you talk in the esports realm and on a game. But usually game theory is used for, negotiations and, figuring out, the best options among a plethora of different paths and that sort of thing. So one of the ways that games impact life in a much more significant way than most people think about. I was just watching some YouTube videos this past weekend about gaming and happiness and how multiplayer games really help people fight depression and anxiety and are better than pharmaceuticals in many instances. It's very, very interesting that, a lot of people are like, games are a waste of time. We don't think games are a waste of time, and especially when there's this much physicality to the game, one of those things that people chip away at games goes away.
It's so true. Now, some people know this, some other people don't, but Dr. Leo and I are colleagues of a sort. We don't work at the same university, but I'm also a professor of gamey type stuff, and it's been fun to make that connection with him over this thing that we both love, bike racing, gaming. Now, his game theory is more connected to economics. My game theory is more connected to education and esports, but it's really, really cool. Frank Deal, he and I connect over pain. That's what we do. Strong, strong dude digging here at the front. And
I just have to say, Chris, I think you've got the greatest scam going ever, which is
absolutely.
How do you end up being a professor of games? I mean, can you please enlighten the rest of us, because I want to rewind about 20, 30 years and follow your path to, let's see, what do I do every day? I play games and tell people how to play games. I'm all over that.
All right. Well, the truth of it, folks, if you are watching at home, we're checking out the overlay presently. The telemetry to show you where these guys are on course. They're part of the first lap proper here. They just went through that section, that long tail that you see on one side. That was all the lead in. Now we're doing these loops in the bottom left-hand corner. But these guys are tight together, Gruppo Compacto. We borrow at the technically no. That's not even Italian. That's just made up Italian, I'm pretty sure. If you speak Italian, let us know in the chat if that's correct. But to your question, Frank, how in the world does somebody become a professor of video games? You go to school for too long, right? You play video games too much, and it can happen to you. No, but the truth is, and if you're watching at home, you're sitting on your Xbox checking this out on Mixer, and thank you, by the way, for all of those of you who are hanging out with us. The truth is, you just chase your passions and you look for any opportunity to do them. Back on board with the women here. Vicky having a little bit of trouble here and there with the different parts of her setup. Heart rate dropped out right now. I'm sure that's part of what she was trying to get working there. Maybe we can talk in a moment about accommodations for what happens if you have something go down on you like this, where you are still very visibly trackable. There's no tomfoolery happening here. It's just a genuine kind of dead battery or rotted out connection or something like that. But to your question, really, I've been in education for a long time. There's an area of education specific to game-based learning, and I thought, hey, that sounds way cool. And that became a 10-year love of mine, developing game-based methods for learning, teaching teachers how to build an entire school in Minecraft and teach all your classes there. And then eventually drifted to esports, where I actually am the director of my university team, which is really, really cool stuff. Okay, Lauren McMurtry doing her thing right now. She is tail gunning for the most part, just kind of sticking around the backside of this group, which is a good place to be. Now, Vicky has done some crazy movement up front before, so she really can't trust her too much. Now they're coming more to a flat section here with just a slight downhill as they come around the corner. That benefits some of these folks. But Vicky, who we're learning so much about in this process, has been really dominant in the last couple of weeks. She just ran away with it last time. In a moment here, and when we've got the ability, we actually have the finish of last week's race queued up in folder 3 of our replay system there, selecting both of them and then hitting the pull down menu for play selected or play all selected would give that to us, which I think would be really interesting to take a look. Okay, here's the way it ended up last week, the men's race. Greg Leo and Kai Barrett just throwing down at the end. Those two boys got away. Kai Barrett decides he's going to absolutely blow this thing up, and the watts come out. They're spilling on the sidewalk, so many watts. He's working harder, throwing down so much more power than Greg Leo. Greg misses just barely his wheel, and because of it can never truly pull it back. Kai Barrett will come under the banner first. Greg Leo says, you know what, respect, you can have it. It's up to you. And here's what it looked like. In fact, if you look at Mr. Leo's face, Dr. Leo, you can see him go, oh, crap. Okay, I can't do that. Kai Barrett does it from the UK. It drills it to the end. A little head shake about this point in the video, if I remember correctly. And well, what you gonna do? Another, that's exactly right. That was our men's race. And those two came across 1-2. It was 1,000 points and 958. Now, we'll show you the women's here in just a second. That is kind of what went down there. Vicky Whitelaw off the front, but there would still be a sprint finish. Emily Joyner, rather, she is the one who came across getting a huge gap on the other riders. Emily had a great finish coming down the hill. All right, back on board with this big attack. We're bringing you right back because this is what's going on right now. Big attack by Kai Barrett, similar to that attack you just saw where he came across the finish line. But these guys are 10 miles into a 26-mile race, which, by the way, they'll finish in a ridiculous amount of time. With Casey, another big attack now, well, rather bridge attempt with Weiland there, who's also working for somebody else to try to pull back Kai Barrett.
Yeah, I think Casey's just bringing Frank back to here. And if we switch to 10 real quick, we'll see Frank just kind of hanging on at the back here. And you can see the difference between Frank's effort and what you saw Casey doing, right? Casey was out of the saddle. He was dancing, tremendous energy going into the pedals. He's really efficient at doing that. And then you look at Frank and he's just, okay, I'm here. I'm hanging on. And I am just riding the wave, right? It's kind of like riding the wave. And Casey is the wave, and that is how you use the teammates.
Yep, Casey is the wave, showing his alien posse. I can't tell. One of them might be giving him a lower back massage. It's unclear. It's unclear. Yeah, okay, so they are, as we see it from Casey's point of view, just about to hit that 12-mile mark in a 26-mile race, not quite even to halfway yet.
But take it to telemetry here real quick, and got a little bit of a flash there as we switched over. But one of the things that you're going to notice, and of course he comes back, but Kai sort of came off the back there, so I don't know if he had a mechanical, and he's actually disappeared off of the telemetry at the moment. So Kai might have had some sort of dropout or something, but sometimes that happens. You go super hard, and then you get shot out the back, and you got to go hard again, and maybe through a chain or something like that. But we'll try and check on that. Well,
and Kai normally streams, and he is not streaming today, which makes me question: is he out of town? Is he traveling? Does some other part of life mean he's using a different setup in a different place so that he can get his points? He's like, well, I'll take the loss of 5 points for streaming here as long as I can get in the race. That can happen. And the fact that we don't see him streaming makes me wonder if there's some other piece going on. But over at CycleView, you can check out any of these riders. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got long, thin lines in both the ladies' race and the men's race. And the ladies' race is kind of coming together. We've got, if we go to camera 6, we'll see we've got Clark off the front just slightly, and we've got a long, thin line of riders here in the men's race as well. This is not your typical flat stage where everybody just kind of toodles along till the end, and then there's some attacks at the end, and you do a big sprint. And that's part of the mystique of the CVR World Cup League. People just race hard, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but it's partly because we have different races through the different weeks. So sometimes there's climbing races and sometimes there's flat races, and the climbers have to do the flat stages and the sprinters have to do the climbing stages. And when you get to a flat stage like this, what you see is the climbers do not want it to come down to a sprint finish. They want to break this up early and often, and not leave it to the end. So you get these very animated races.
Very animated indeed. And Greg Leo seems to be the man who is kind of shepherding all these folks. Now, in previous weeks, we have seen him without a few of his team draft teammates. But I'll point out that team has gotten larger and larger over the last few weeks, as they get more attention for the different events that they've done, but also as they do just a little bit more recruiting. Hey, come out and help us in this F zone. We can take some serious points. These are world-class athletes. I'm impressed. Greg Leo maybe fighting a cold little bit there. He's got the strip across his nose, just trying to get as much oxygen out as he can. Headphones in. He is definitely taking it very seriously. He's maybe had to wrap his knee as we look at maybe his right knee there, giving him just a little bit of grief. But this is the kind of course where he can do great stuff, because there's no protracted 7-8 minute climb, right? There's no way that unless you just miss a move, that someone can power away from you. No one here is 20% more powerful than anyone else, right? I mean, this is the great equalization. It takes great tactics to kind of finish this and to do good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It usually takes a concerted effort. So first of all, you've got to be willing to suffer for about 5 minutes, and usually you need a teammate or two along the way to help you break things up. So one of the tactics here is go to the front and go hard, and one of your teammates looks like they're going with you, and then kind of eases off, not totally, and other people think that it's a follow, and it takes them a second or two to figure out, oh, this person has left a gap open, they're doing it on purpose, and now I've got to sprint across this gap. And those are the types of things that you do over and over and over again until people start looking at each other going, well, you jump across the gap and I'll follow you. And then sometimes everybody just keeps looking around at everybody, nobody goes, and you're away. And then
Yes, you are.
You have long-term suffering in your future is what that usually means.
Long-term suffering, indeed. Okay, so they, as Frank kind of settles in here, this section of tarmac tends to roll a little bit smoother. Maybe I just see that because it's painted, and I like to ride on painted painted sections and things like that. Maybe it's just all in my mind that this is smoother, but I swear when I ride this, even though it's flat, it feels just slightly more comfortable. There are different, different trainers that react differently. I'm on a CompuTrainer, so it will adjust the relative tension and ease based on where you're at. But there's some other trainers out there that actually will simulate the feel of the road as well. That is always really cool.
And you just saw something here. I thought this was a great sort of thing. You got Casey on the front. He was going hard. When we switched back to him, now everybody's sort of passing him by. But did you see Frank? Frank was so comfortable in the pack that he's, sitting there texting on his phone, probably telling Casey, this is how I feel. This is one of the things that you communicate, because some days you feel good, some days you don't feel quite that good. But interesting, and now you see Casey, if we go back to 8, he's doing some texting as well. So you sort of have these hard efforts, but sitting in the pack, it's considerably easier, right?
Yeah.
Now, what you'll also see people doing from time to time, and you see that this happened a little bit to Casey here, you get on the phone, you start texting, somebody else attacks, and you're not paying attention, and pretty soon before you know it, you've opened up a gap and you've got to sprint across it. And that is certainly something that comes to play.
Well, and some of them may be communicating with one another, right? I mean, they may be in some kind of text chat and saying, "Hey, we're gonna set this pace, or we're gonna attack at this point and try to break up this field." That's one of the things that they really want to be able to do. Okay, jumping back in with the women's field on board with Lauren McMurtry, she is still within this group. Vicky Whitelaw also hanging around. She had a little bit of a mechanical question earlier. I'll ask you about the heart rate monitor dropout, because I think we've got some folks who want to know more details about how to handle something like that. And Bullock, who is in the group as well. Sandra Deegan, we mentioned at the very beginning, this may be a breakout race for her because she is strong, but there are no climbs, and that favors a different kind of rider, one like Deegan, one like McMurtry, who can cover and close all of those distances and bring it back. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, a couple of things, but before I get to that, as we're watching Lauren here, and we see, she's controlling her breathing, she looks good. But one of the things I'm noticing is I don't see a lot of fan effect. I don't see a lot of, sort of wind blowing through her hair. I don't see a lot of movement in her hair. And one of the things that can happen to you on a trainer is you get much warmer than you do outside, because outside you naturally sort of have the wind going by you. And so what you'll find, most people on a trainer are going to use a big fan. And you'll tend to see that, in the hair and, just generally how they're cooling. Now, for Lauren, it might be pretty cool in her room. It might be that we just don't see the effects because of where her fan is. But that's one of the things to watch. Will she get too hot? Will she overheat towards the end of this race when it keeps going hard? And how much power that takes away, because you definitely get heart rate drift if you're suffering from heat, and especially if you're suffering from dehydration. And then that means what you can output at the end of the race is slightly low. Now, on the other side, I think Lauren's probably licking her lips and just waiting for the sprint to happen. So it'll be interesting to see as we go forward, and we'll take a look at all of the different women here that we've got streaming into the studio here, and then we'll probably go back to the men. Again, the men is just animated.
Yeah, no kidding. Attack after attack.
I'm really surprised. Yeah, I'm really surprised at how animated the races have been today. I actually expected these to be some fairly sedate, shall we call them, races, and they've been anything but. In fact, they've been, in many ways, more exciting than some of the climbing races just because of the attacks.
Yes, because of those attacks. Now, what they're trying to do, if you're just new to this and just checking it out, we're looking at Greg Leo right now. But what they're trying to do is they're actually trying to see if they can't catch a couple of those competitors in a bad spot. Matthew Brandt from Team Draft up there also working with Greg Leo, his teammate. You'll notice that big red stripe down the back. That's Team Draft. You'll notice that alien eyes and the two the slash marks right on the black jersey. That's Team X, not Alienware, but Team Experimental. You'll see a PTZ jersey in there, white on top, and then you've got the, almost the mountains in 3 colors there. Those are pretty easy to spot kind of kits in this group.
One of the things you're going to see here from Leo, this is a great picture of him. You sort of look at him and look how attentive he is. Eyes are literally wide open. He's taking in everything on this screen. And that's because, and you see him, he sees a little bit of an attack, and he was waiting for that, right? He's anticipating that. He was super attentive. He's looking at the right-hand side of his screen to see if he can see anybody jumping a little bit earlier. Does that number start to move? And if you're a bike rider who races outside, normally that would be some gear shifting you would hear, and you would know that people are about to go, and that would be your clue to sort of not miss the lag, right? Because if you see the guy going by you, 10 miles an hour faster, or 15 kilometers an hour faster, well, then you already missed him, right? And
right.
Stand. And if we go to 8, we'll see that Casey's working hard here, and definitely working for a teammate. When you're working for a teammate, you don't have to be strong at the end, right? You have to be strong in the middle. And so he can burn tons of matches. He can do all sorts of things. And it is really fun to race in support of someone else, because it's just a completely different experience because of that. You're not sort of conserving and saving. You're sort of throwing attacks, punches, little tricks, all throughout the race. And it's a lot of fun to race in support of another rider.
Oh boy, it is. And the guys that are doing this week in and week out appreciate all the help of their teammates. So Frank Deal, currently in first position on the week here, trying to hang on to as many points as he can. And that's why Casey is here, helping out his guy, making sure that he finishes as high as he can and doesn't let him get trimmed way in the back and lose lots of points. As we look here, Greg Leo deciding he's going to push forward, maybe counterattack here to try to break something off the front of this. What they need is a few seconds so that they can get just a few more points. Casey sees it happening here, decides he's going to cover that as well. But look who else is there. Mike Davis. Many, many Team X guys working together for Frank Deal today. That's inspiring.
This is just an absolutely team-on-team competition. You've got Draft and Team X just going totally at it today. And, if you can see Casey here, sort of bending down to get all the energy that he can into the pedals. Probably keeps a little bit more energy if he sits up a little bit more upright. But if you're used to riding outdoors as Casey is, when you go hard, you sort of naturally get more aero because of the exponential effects of wind resistance. And so if we go to 6, we'll see the long line here. And this is just an amazing race with, punch and counterpunch, attack and counterattack. And if we go to 10, this could be a problem for X, right? They've got Frank Deal off the back.
Mike Davis drifting back a little bit. You see that he stops pedaling almost altogether. So does Casey Schum. You're about to see something really cool that happens in bike racing and not a lot of other places. You see Brandt just a little bit off the front there. Casey Schum comes back, lets Frank jump on his wheel, and then starts to pull him back. You're going to see just a little bit of a delay here. We're looking at Casey just a few minutes in the past. He sees what's going on. His guy is not there. As he glances to the right, he'll notice that his man is not there and eases it back just a little bit. But he was able to pull Frank back into that group and brings him back on board. But still crazy stuff happening in the front. Greg Leo doesn't miss that opportunity and actually uses it to attack. That's fair game. If you've got somebody who's in a spot of bother, not a mechanical or an accident or anything like that, but you put it down and look at the gaps now. Frank Deal a second behind the group. It doesn't seem like much, but in a fast, flat race like this, it is really hard to make up that distance. Really hard. You need a lot of effort and a lot of work to do it. On a hill, it's still hard, but you can actually, a little bit more work usually ends up in quite a bit more speed. A little bit more work outside may or may not here on the flat. Okay. Frank Deal, long, thin line. Whenever you see it long and thin like that, that's the aerodynamics at play. People are not sticking their nose in the wind. They're trying to get as much speed as they can with as little aerodynamic resistance. So they get behind somebody rather than riding next to somebody. And so when you see it blobular, a big old, maybe just a triangle shape or a diamond shape, then that's definitely.
What I would expect
I got
here
you
is
to the ending. I love it. They're texting each other right now. So that one that just popped up was a private message from Casey to Frank that says, "I've got you to the end, brother." Very cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that you'll see here is, and one of the reasons they want to start communicating is Frank definitely at his limit. So, other people at their limit as well. But now you have to be careful, right? So you'll probably see Team X sort of back off and not push the front to burn any other people's matches, right? And you see some people here like, wow, it's the last lap, and they are going fast. But if you're draft, that would be the point where you kind of wanted to push it. Let's see if we can, eject Frank off the back and win big for ourselves today.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do, and they've put in some really smart attacks. When Casey and Mike both had to come back for Frank, the Team X was just suddenly absent from the front, and that's when Draft decided to attack. Okay, still together in the women's field, Joyner, Whitelaw, Deegan, and Muldoon, all there with McMurtry. Bullock also hanging out in that group, doing a nice job staying in this group together today. And that's not something that's happened a ton before. Gail Anthony off the back just a little bit. And there is, Vicky Whitelaw. Okay. We didn't really circle back on what to do if you have a dropout like that. You start with equipment and then it drops out. What's the ruling from the commissars if you don't have that data?
Well, I know she started with a heart rate monitor, it looked like, and then I have to say she's very strong. We'll talk to the officials at the end of the race, but she is streaming. We can see her. We actually saw someone try and help her get that to work. She actually went back into the pairing screen, which means she lost the group. Had to work very hard to get the group back. So we'll be talking to the officials about that. But typically, you have to have that telemetry for the majority of the race, we'll say, in order for you not to be DQ'd or relegated to the back of the bunch. But again, that's an official call, and we'll contact them and see what they say.
Okay, so relegation, for those who don't really know, as we look at the amazing Cheryl Muldoon here, she's doing a nice job. Look what has been added to her background, Frank. That's right. It is a pink mohawked skeleton. Only here in CVR do people add crazy cool things to their backgrounds. I love it. They're working so hard, but they have such a great attitude about streaming and creating their own personality in these spaces. It's pretty dang cool. But the idea of relegation, and Lauren McMurtry in a great spot. She is comfortable, heart rate fairly high, but this is a good spot for her. This is one of the only rising sections out. She's not going to be relegated today, but relegation is when you get moved to the back of the bunch. It doesn't mean you take a 0. It simply means that something happened that makes it so you cannot finish in front of everyone who essentially didn't make that happen. We often see it in road racing where someone violates the center line rule, right? Somebody is riding across in the oncoming traffic lane, right? And they're warned usually, and then they're relegated, which means an official usually on a motorcycle, drives up next to him and says, "You're relegated, get to the back of the group." Right. And so relegation can happen temporarily. They can just put you in the back of the group, which can be hard to get to the front depending on how big the group is and what the course is like. But in something like this, they might be relegated to the end of the line. So if they actually finished second, but there were 7 in their field, they would actually be relegated to 7th. They just lose points really for doing that. But it's not like they're DQ'd per se. Disqualification requires other characteristics. But the point that you bring up, I think, is interesting and worthy of discussion, which is if you've got evidence that this was truly mechanical and not something else, and that there was evidence of them trying to fix it and things like that, it's treated differently. It can be reviewed differently than someone just claiming that's there we go. In fact, trying to get a new heart rate monitor on her Whitelaw's team car right there, right? Is trying to make that happen. Now she is there, kind of at the front, and there we go. We start to see heart rate jump in. Great job. So much great stuff happening for Vicky Whitelaw. I got to tell you, didn't know much about her. She was kind of this dangerous entity out there, just always an avatar. And now that we've seen her and we've seen her overcome some struggles during the race, it's hard to not be a fan of her. It's really dang cool. And also, by the way, the Mixer crew, the Facebook crew, agreeing with that sentiment. It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the things that makes this different is and maybe we can shift back to the men's race. Looks like we've got some action going on there at the front. Maybe we'll go to Frank Deal's screen and we'll kind of see this long, thin line. Huge attack going on.
Weiland again off the front. This is the multiple times this happened. Greg Leo and Kai Barrett, exactly where you'd expect them to be, right where the action is. Those guys don't let much happen. There's Greg Leo right now, looking strong. Mentioned earlier, bags under his eyes. He may be fighting something, as I mentioned, a cold, but he is racing really, really strong here with his team.
I think that's war paint.
It may be war paint. Well,
I think
across
that's war
his
paint.
nose.
Well, yeah, I think he's got, the strip going to maximize oxygen intake, get that air in as quick as you can. And I think he's got a little war paint going on there. He is out. Yeah, that's absolutely war paint. He is, I guess they call that, what do they call that in the NFL? I'm sure they call it something.
Eye black. Yeah,
war paint.
Well, no, they call it eye black usually, or okay. Yeah. Well, that's what this has become. He's got a great looking overlay, giving lots of love to his people, but also making it so that we can really see him well. And that's been one of the biggest improvements over the last several weeks, is people have really stepped up their overlay game so that we can actually get to know these riders. They're not some little bit camera from back 20 feet. You see Casey's right now, a little bit of a party going on behind him with the aliens, but gives you a chance to see what folks are doing. He's got some fans watching him too. Over on the CycleView app, cycleview.cvrworldcup.com, you can actually see the different racers that are streaming and select from them. But you can also cheer for them. You can cheer for your favorite rider. You could give Lauren McMurtry a little cheer, send a buck her way that goes into the prize pool for these big events. That's always really, really exciting. But I love the overlay game that people have stepped up here. Some people who have to have that chroma key background, like Frank and like Casey, have created something unique and interesting. It's almost their own kind of style there.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to quickly kind of show telemetry here for a second. you see how the gaps opened up. These guys have been going really hard, and while some have stayed with the group, and we've got the three main contenders up there, you've got Kai off the back, wide away. You've got a split of about 48 seconds between some groups here that have developed, and I don't think those guys will come back because the front are really keeping the throttle on here, and you've got Casey on the front at the moment, sort of driving things, just keeping things hot. So I imagine Frank's feeling pretty good, but I don't know. Those couple of dangles off the back make me think that somebody else is probably setting up for a victory.
You're not kidding. So Frank Deal came into this race ranked #1 overall, and Greg Leo came in ranked 5th overall. If he can continue climbing up this, he can, and actually move ahead of Greg Leo, of Kai Barrett, who has slipped off the back just a little bit. Chris Olson likely to advance after today, as well as Matthew Brandt moving into that 2nd position overall. Okay. Back on board here. Not very much left. About 4 miles left for the men. Here, 30 of 41 kilometers for the women in the books right now. And it has really settled down in a lot of ways. Definitely, Vicky got her help at the right time, getting that additional heart rate monitor so that she can focus on that. But a big attack off the front by Emily Joyner, at least a lot of watts early. They all just, match and try to catch on, make sure that she's there. Lauren McMurtry doing her best tail gunner impression, making sure that she's right where she needs to be as well. This is her kind of day. Very good to see her in this sprint finish. Now, we've built it up. Is there somebody else who wants to steal that storyline and said, maybe it's not about the sprinter Lauren McMurtry. Maybe it's about the sprinter Cheryl Muldoon. We'll find out who's got the most kicks today. And these women are working hard. There's Lauren again in her pain cave doing the thing that she does, right? It's interesting to see how different folks have different setups. She's got her camera right in front of her, straight on, covering up a door and a fire alarm and some things like that behind her. Other people can use more of their home or their office to build something out. There she is right there, Vicky Whitelaw, doing great work. She's got some drapes behind her. She actually might be on the road. Not sure if those are if those are home drapes or those could be hotel drapes. Who knows? I've ridden my bike in races many times in hotel rooms, having to, fly my bike different places so I could keep riding. Spent 2 full weeks in Ecuador one time and flew a bike down there, or actually rented a bike down there, but flew my trainer down. All right. Back on board with the men here. As we mentioned, they've got about 2 miles left, and it's starting to get a little chippy there in the front. Kai Barrett appears to be back in this group. So the data that we gotten just a little bit ago may be a little less than accurate, or they just eased up, which it looks like they've done, and he managed to climb himself back on. Okay, Casey Shum trolling the front of this thing. You do have Clark 4 seconds off the front. But as we mentioned about Clark, that is Boris Clark, by the way, who's a Zwift verified rider, that he is in a big spot off the front. He's got a couple of minutes. A few seconds off the front. But looks like Tyson Weiland, Casey Shum, Mike Davis are going to try to pull that back. They want to give Frank Deal the best chance to win this thing outright and to put more points in the bank than anybody else. There's Frank and his point of view.
Yeah, and what you'll see here is, if we switch back to Casey really quickly, what you'll see is Casey's on the front here. He's going to try and keep Clark within striking distance. He probably doesn't want to let him get more than 10 seconds. And so he was kind of, pulling people along. And now you notice he backed off. And he's like, not enough other people are doing the work. I don't want to let them rest. If these other people want to win the race, let's say someone from draft, then we need them to come up and make that happen. And so and this is where you get
big
now.
Kick. Here it goes. They're going to maybe try to pull back this 8 seconds on Boris Clark, vegan cyclist, Greg Leo, Kai Barrett, all in there. Frank Deal This is the group that is trying to chase it back. Weiland is the one who decided to animate and maybe pull all this back. 8 seconds is not very much right now when you have this strong of a group. It's down to 4 already. Who's drilling it at the front? Looks like Casey's going to try to empty the tank. Will they try now and actually do some kind? There's what Greg Leo sees. Will they try to do some kind of train to lead him out? What is the strategy to try to get your guy across the line? If it's not going to be to separate him from the group and get him off the front where no one else can chase, what is the advantage? How do they do it? How do they do it?
Well, here, you just want to pull everybody back together. So you don't want to go off the front. You want to drag the entire group with you. So you see Clark trying to keep a high effort, and you see the rest of these guys sort of punching it at the front to try and bring him back. And you see he just coming back slowly. It's very easy for the group to bring you back that way, and that's what they're looking to do. They don't want to splinter the group, because if you splinter the group, it becomes very hard to catch Clark. And we're going to sort of watch the end here. We're going to go to camera 4, and then we'll look at the guys as we see them a little bit later. And catch them as they come across the line in first-person view.
I like it. Okay. As we're gearing up for the big finish here, we are at 40 kilometers. As you remember, this was 41 kilometers race. They're almost at or right inside that final banner before they go. They're going to do a big right-hander, well, drifting right-hander, and then finish on the straight there. That is the red carpet.
He's done his job there.
Yes, he has.
You know, he brought everybody back, and now he'll try and get some recovery and probably do a lead out in the sprint.
Okay, big lead out coming, most likely. He does. He tail guns just a little bit, but make sure he doesn't disconnect. Buses on the left. Everybody looking to see who this is going to be. Now, the question will be, are there enough legs in the team draft? He drifts to the front again. Of course he does. That is Casey Shum, ladies and gentlemen. He is a guy who defeated some professional triathletes very recently, showing them how to really bike race. That's what you see. Okay, on to the red carpet. This is the big finish. About a half a kilometer out right now. All the red numbers come out. Matthew Brandt, Mike Davis, Kai Barrett, all kicking it into high gear. But at the front, is it Dallas? Greg Leo moves to the front. There they are. Greg Leo off the front. This is where he shines. Nice and flat, lights the fuse. Kaboom! There he goes. Is there any chance this group can catch him before he gets to the line? Maybe fading a little bit, shrinking that gap. Kai Barrett tries to come around him. Will he be able to do it at the line? Maybe. Yes, today he does. Just like last week, Kai went when he knew he could just unload it, and he comes around Greg Leo at the end. This is what Leo sees. We're also going to get to see his face when he finds out what happens. Maybe he doesn't see it the same way we do. Greg Leo off the front. He's got a gap. 1, 2. He doesn't dip at all. He's still 700 watts, maybe just a little bit under there. But Kai Barrett has got a bigger top end. Fading. He sees that he's there, comes around him. Oh, across the line. You did everything you can, man. Everything you can. Kai Barrett comes across first in this position. Greg Leo in second, but still Greg Leo is going to move way ahead in the points. Frank Deal comes across in third position. He's going to hold on to that first spot overall. Wow, that was outstanding. Can't wait to watch that again in just a second. We've got our women on the road. But just point out where a few of those folks hit it. Casey Shum doing the work all throughout, comes across in the last of that group, and that's exactly what you would hope and expect. Okay, here we are. Replay territory on board with Casey Shum as they are starting to move through this section. Jumping forward to Matthew Brandt and then to Greg Leo off the front, exploding with all that he is, holding that really high watts, 800 for a while. But Frank Deal closing it down on the wheel of Kai Barrett. But nobody has more top-end watts than Kai Barrett. And this was a 41-kilometer race, and Kai Barrett led it for about 2 meters. It was the 2 meters that count because he comes across first. And we just saw it a moment ago, Greg Leo's point of view. He explodes at the time he should explode. Maybe a little early, probably not, because you want the element of surprise. You want folks like Kai Barrett to look around and say, who's going to close that? And he decides or learns that he has to do it. and was able to just put out monster watts at the end. Greg cannot be mad at himself. He did it right. His team rode it to perfection. But sometimes the solo rider does what he wants to do. Okay, 4-5 kilometers left for these women, and they are still together in a big group. That would be, of course, Sandra Deegan. Boré is now back in that group, and she had trailed, you remember, by about 15 seconds at one point. This either leads to the fatigue of the overall group. Maybe it's just the savviness, the caginess. They didn't want to do too much too early. In this race, unlike the last one, Frank, we don't have teams that are really working together. Yes, there are 2 Vixen riders in this, Muldoon and, of course, where'd she go in the list? Joyner, Emily Joyner. And they've ridden together, ridden hard well before, but they find themselves often in different spots of the course, so they've not really been able to tee it up. Lauren McMurtry still within that group, just trailing at the end here. She is a very popular rider among the cycling fans here. This is the toughest video game ever. Thank you, Mixer. It is good stuff to see. I just got a message actually from Casey Shum pointing out. I said, so what are you guys texting about? And he responded, super secrets. Nice work. Basically, yep. there's a lot. Evidently, there's lots of team car communication happening here between some different folks. Not in this women's race, but certainly in the men's just a little bit ago. Maybe Frankel will key us in on that a little bit later. But as we look at Lauren McMurtry here, she's got her stuff going on. Yes, very, very cool. The work by Frank Deal in the men's field, very, very strong. Moves to the front of that group. Now in the women's, we've got Vicky Whitelaw, who we mentioned earlier. She had a heart rate monitor go out. She actually went back to the pairing screen, which will stop you dead cold as she tries to figure out what it is, maybe try to reconnect that. Battery's dead, it looked like. And over the course of a little while, she was able to get another heart rate monitor going. If you're relatively new to this, then you got to know that the data is important. You got to know that the output that you are doing is balanced in some way. And one of the ways that we can do that is to determine heart rate. Because if you're, in a group making it look like you're working hard, but you're not actually working hard, your heart doesn't agree, that's something you got to verify. So it just keeps all of us paying good, close attention to making sure that the data coming out of our bikes and translated into the game is real data, right? Very, very good. Okay. So this is the end of the women's race. And here, if you're just joining us, sounds like a lot of people are, click that follow button and you'll check out these races. So we've got a few racers who are joining us and actually streaming their view of the world. Again, about 3 kilometers to go. One of them, Vicky Whitelaw. She is a very, very dominant racer. She does great on the climbs. We're watching her right now. She is in that black and green jersey purple bike. She has been great in the field. They're going to come into this bridge here and then finish on the top of this section. We'll show you that momentarily.
Expect an attack coming up here on this uphill.
I think you're right. Vicky Whitelaw is one of those riders. And the next rider we got to pay close attention to in this group is Lauren McMurtry. She's a very popular rider, streaming and showing her view as well throughout this. She is looking for a great finish, which she is capable of on a course like this. She's got some kicks. Okay. Vicky Whitelaw, there it is. The dig that you talked about comes up and over the hill. She's going to throw down hard, puts a little gap. Who's going to follow? Sandra Deegan picks up the flag and says, follow me, girls. Let's go get her. And she does. But who's coming with her? Doesn't look like they got enough. This is a really early attack, but she's going to have to empty her tank here. Sandra Deegan, 6 watts per kilo, lining it out at the front. We're going to start to see those watts back off from Whitelaw because people can't hold it well unless your name is Scotty Weiss. You can't hold it for that long. But there's the gap now. It's a big 7-second gap. The group does not respond very well. McMurtry just trying to climb onto the back of that group. There she is. These women are strung out, and they have let Vicky Whitelaw go. I think she's going to put down a 3 to 4 minute PR on this particular watts per kilo. See how long she can hold it. Looks like it's going to be long enough. There is no real chase, and as long as she's working relatively harder than everybody else, they're not going to catch her. Sandra Deegan on the front saying, I don't know what you guys are looking at. I wasn't going to pull her all the way back. I just wanted to get people excited. She comes around. They're going to travel by Whitehall here in virtual London in just a second, but it looks like Whitelaw is going to be uncontested to the finish. That is one of those sneaky, powerful attacks that can do exactly what it did. It can end the desire of the field to chase, or in some cases, it can kick you into high gear and make you a target for everybody else, and then they close you down. There she is. She's got fans in her own work. She's got a fan behind. We've got a fan over on the right side. He slides out of view there. You can see his arm. He was helping with the heart rate monitor just a little bit ago. She is just heading downhill about 4% now, trying to keep her speed high. It's grown to 16 seconds with no measurable chase from that group. Lauren McMurtry hanging on to that group. Cheryl Muldoon as well. They are trying to pull back Sandra Deegan. Little trio there. McMurtry slides into the back position there. Lets the other rider pull her along. Emily Joyner and Muldoon trying to catch the two riders up front. Bullock and Deegan. They want to erase the PTZ riders' points today. They definitely want those to belong to Team Vixen. McMurtry happy to just be there with this group and with the potential of out-sprinting these other women. But will they go at 300 meters, or will they go at some other specific interval? Sometimes people really like to attack from that red right there. There's Muldoon out of the saddle, just trying to freshen up her legs, as you talked about a little bit before. In this field sprint, now that these four women are together, they're not going to catch Whitelaw with 23 seconds. Frank, in your best estimation, who is the strongest sprinter in this group? Who's going to come across first, and how are they going to do it?
I'm going to go with Lauren today. Cheryl's going to be very strong as well, and as is Sandra. So it's a tough call today. It'll be interesting to see who comes across. But let's see if Lauren can do it today. Of course, we got Emily there too, so I might pick Emily.
Might pick Emily indeed. You know what? Emily has shown a lot of power previously, and that is really cool. But to your point, it's going to be interesting. Deegan pushing a little bit harder off the front, trying to grab that little gap. And as we look on board with Muldoon here, I think we're going to go to the live shot in just a second, although hers is pretty close. We see Emily Joyner trying to close down Muldoon. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough. They're going to catch her, but it's going to be on the other side of the line, almost as teammates. They come across together. McMurtry drifting across, probably in that third position overall. But here is the way it looked just a moment ago. It was Deegan who had opened up that gap early, and no one responded. Then Emily Joyner decides she's going to bridge that and go. Cheryl Muldoon, they're contending with McMurtry. McMurtry goes just a little bit later, tries to dig her own sprint out there, and Muldoon really at the end, she just wants to come across with a little bit of power, and that's what we would expect to see. Deegan, Bullock, Joyner, McMurtry, and Cheryl Muldoon all with really high points, but of course Muldoon and McMurtry are going to get that bonus 5 for doing so well. There is our winner on the day, and someone who's likely going to climb to the top of those standings by the end of the season. She's not there quite yet, but streaming today will add that powerful 5 points to the mix. She is overall in second position in the point standings right now. Lauren McMurtry just a little bit ahead of her, but as those weeks catch up, she's not going to have that multi-week advantage over take those top 6 races. Vicky Whitelaw is probably going to jump even further ahead. Very, very cool stuff. Okay. Well, and you'll notice here that we do have a little bit of a closeout, and you'll notice this also, Frank, in the broadcast materials there, that there is a closer page which offers us some cool stuff, a closer image. But as we take a quick look at this kind of finishing up here, it is and has been an amazing week already. This is week 5. We are closing this thing out, and we're going to start to see how these advances will likely come and who could possibly make it. And of course, we've also got the big finish with the brackets, which will give some people an advantage, an opportunity to jump into those final brackets. Very, very nice. Okay, as we finish this up, the big day, let's point out just a couple of great things that happened today. We saw Vicky Whitelaw and her streaming fabulousness just overcome some challenges. We saw Team Draft. We saw Team X fight it out for a fantastic finish. And we saw somebody relatively unattached take the whole thing. And that was the way that it went. Very exciting to see. And very exciting. Thank you for joining us here. I will throw out there that we've got some folks joining us for the first time on Mixer, for the first time on Facebook. Click a like so the automated systems can kick this out and let you know when we're racing. And in just about an hour and 50 minutes, we'll kick this off again. One of 8 global regions, zones as we call them, will kick off. And this is going to be an exciting one. Thanks to Saris and Cyclops, to PowerTap, and to everyone else who participated today. Garneau and their great shoes, jerseys, helmets, my goodness, everything. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you cheering and supporting these riders. And we are just 1 week closer to the postseason and to find out who's going to end up in Vancouver, British Columbia, where $10,000 is going to be online for the winner of these divisions, but pays all the way down through. Okay, on behalf of everyone here, Kathy, the fabulous, with Frank, of course, and everyone else who supported and made this possible today, thank you very much. It's been CVR World Cup League. I'm Dr. Chris Haskell, and we'll see you shortly.